Hello and welcome. I am your host, Jimmy Leach, of the newly rebranded True North Canadian Football Podcast. Yep, new season, new rebrand. We changed our name and logo. Just when we were doing the interview series we got some feedback saying it might be a little more beneficial to us if we changed our name because obviously we're not fully affiliated with the CFL or anything like that. So we decided, let's just do Canadian football because we cover a lot of draft material anyway, so you might as well just round that out. And yeah, we're back with our usual hosts. Taylor and Carter, you want to do the honors?
Yeah, well, I'm Taylor. Happy to be back, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TaylorCurrySK.
I'm Carter Kennington. You can follow me on Instagram at Carter Kennington, and you can also listen out for me on the radio stations at Portage La Prairie if anybody is listening from over there.
And before we introduce our very special guest, which I've been teasing for a little bit now, some new people are going to watch this episode, so let's kind of reintroduce ourselves, just in case there's any new listeners. I'm the host, showrunner, and everything. This podcast is, obviously it's a CFL podcast. We cover fantasy, general news, and games around the season, as well as draft coverage when that is necessary. Obviously, especially with the podcast market, it's a market of ideas and what makes you unique. Like, I always ask that to myself, if I'm a consumer, why should I listen to you? And I would answer that by saying, well, a lot of the CFL podcasts are run by, you either have poor quality podcasts that are run by young people, or you have, like, the older guys who are definitely a lot more clean with it, but the older people have different takes than the young people, right? So we're in the middle. I think we're all young here. We're all in our 20s. Carter and I are both university age. Carter is obviously doing broadcasting. I'm business and economics. So
I was gonna say we're dumb, like we're young and stupid, so we've got the worst of everything.
No doubt. And so we offer that kind of nice middle ground. I think our social media presence, especially on Instagram, if you want to go follow us, True North, I think it's CFL Podcast still on there. Yeah, you want to go follow us there? Our social media is absolutely second to none. And without further ado, I want to introduce our special guest. Some of you will know him as a TSN analyst, and some of you in Saskatchewan will know him as the voice of the Riders. Ladies and gentlemen, Derek Taylor.
Hey, fellow kids, how is everybody today?
How have we finessed this?
Yeah.
Oh my
No
God.
doubt. Just as we talk about being young and stuff, but it's cool. DT's awesome. He embraces the new guard. I love it. He's a guy I've looked up to for a long time. So,
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on here.
Hey, I'm happy to be with you guys. I just love the fact we can talk about Canadian football again because
Oh,
it was a long, dry pandemic.
100%.
about time.
As one of the creatives here, I found it so hard to make content, record podcasts during this long break because it's like we barely have any material,
Yeah. Tried doing a 2.5 hour radio show every day about sports when there were zero sports going on.
Oh man, yeah, that would be a nightmare.
We get to watch every other league figure out a way to keep on keeping on, and then CFL just shuts the doors, and it's like, great, yeah, okay, see you next year, hopefully.
And then, just so people know, in case they don't know, DT, where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter and Instagram at DTonSC, and then 2.5 hours a day you can hear me on the radio at 620 CKRM in Regina, online at 620CKRM.com, or in podcast form for all the I don't know. I almost assume podcasts are like a middle-aged person thing because we're tired of listening to tunes, all that hip-hop music on the radio.
No, there's a lot of young adults, teenagers who listen to podcasts.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Two ones that I'm familiar with, these are more internet-based ones, are Logan Paul has a podcast called Impulsive, which is really good.
Ew.
Oh, come on. Okay, Taylor, fair enough. Fair
Logan
enough.
Paul, yeah.
And then there's another one called Mom's Basement, which is like internet culture stuff that I like to listen to. And I'm sure, Carter, you probably have a couple as well.
I actually like listening to Impulsive as well, to be honest.
Yeah, like I didn't think I would like it because it's like I'm not the biggest Logan Paul fan, but it's actually it's cool to listen to sometimes. But yeah, there's a lot of young people doing podcasts now, which is awesome. I love it. There's more young people getting involved with the CFL podcast game. I love that too. So it's nice to see more people getting into this space, and hopefully we can help them and they can help us, And personally, I love listening to the Sports Cage on Spotify. That's where I tend to listen to it. I always just listen to it while I'm working. It's great. Listen there. And then,
that's awesome. I love knowing people are listening. That's great.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I love on-demand stuff because it is hard. Sometimes you miss stuff on the radio because it's like you'll be late or something or whatever, and it's like, oh, I missed like the first 10 minutes, and then there's this in joke that you missed. And it's like, oh no. But then if it's just on Spotify, you listen to it later, it's like, oh, I got everything. I got all the context. This is awesome. So yeah, I love doing that. And let's get into the news here. So our first big story was the 6 Achilles injuries in one day. Like, that was pretty wild. Yeah. 4 of those were on the Riders, man. That was... I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, yeah, that was nuts. Like, I just... I don't get... I mean, I'm not a coach, but I don't understand how they went through 4 people and, like, it seemed like simultaneously happening to them. It confuses me, but yeah, what a day in the CFL. That was rough to watch.
It was all during the same drill too, wasn't it, DT, with the rider injuries?
Yeah, so it was 4 guys in a 6-minute span, all kind of doing the same drill. And then that same day, there were 2 guys from Montreal. And then since then, there was Mercy Maston in Winnipeg.
Yep, in Winnipeg.
Calgary, Charlie Power. And then just this past Saturday, Tim Williams, defensive end from the Riders, did his as well, just in basically like a walk-through 60% drill. So we're up to 9 overall in the Canadian Football League, which is an incredible number.
That's like 9 in what? We're at day 12 or 13 of training camp as of recording?
So they started on the Saturday. So Saturday was 15, 16, 17, 18, plus 2 days before. Yeah, so in the span of 3 weeks, there's been 9.
That's wild.
Wow.
That is wild. So yeah, hopefully this isn't a continuing pattern throughout the season. It's just like conditioning and getting guys into shape. And once they're in shape, this kind of sorts itself out just for, again, our sakes and the players' sakes, obviously, because could you imagine if you're like an American rookie coming up here to play and then you tear your Achilles, Football's a business. They're not going to be waiting around for you, right? Unless you're Shaq Evans or like Brandon Banks.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's jump to this. I feel like we're going to have mixed feelings on this because I am an outlier on this topic. XFL talks are finished. How do you guys feel about that? Let's start with DT.
I always thought they were quite serious. I always thought, okay, well, there's meat on this bone because too many interesting things happened along the way that made you think, okay, these are for real. Now they're gone. Fine. Will they ever start up again? Who knows? But they say they're concluded for now. My takeaway ultimately is, okay, well, how's the CFL going to fix its financial problems? Because even though there's no talking to the XFL, pardon me, all those financial problems and $7 million losses, those are still around. All those problems they had with revenue, where the Riders didn't make money in 2019 before the pandemic, those are still around. So what's their solution for those is the thing that just kind of, it's been pushed to the background, but still lingers with me.
That's a good, many great points. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I was hoping with some XFL talks, it's fine that they're done and we're not merging as they were saying, but I was just hoping that they could promote our league for a while if they're not playing this year, and hopefully get some more Americans coming up here or paying to watch our games, something like that, to try to get money in our pockets.
Yeah, leading on to decide, like, yeah, no, of course, I don't think any of us want to see a merger between the XFL and the CFL. But maybe if they were to do, excuse me, a show match sort of towards the end of their seasons, if they line up, because like maybe that's something that they're talking about. Who knows? But yeah, it all comes down to CFL can't handle money very well, and they need to fix it. And I think that was a big part of the XFL talks. And now that it's gone, I'm a little worried.
Same here. For me, I look at it as this was a really good business opportunity. A lot of people threw the word merger around early and often, whereas a lot of the official statements said it was just a collaboration. You look at guys like Dave Naylor, Farhan Lalji, most of what they were saying was collaboration. And I was like, okay, I'm open to collaborating with the XFL, you know. I would have liked to have seen like a home and home between the two leagues, and that way you do get that cross promotion with American viewing audiences, and if they like what they see, which I mean, when I have shown Americans who have never seen the CFL whatsoever, the CFL game, they love it. So if you could get those American eyes on the CFL somehow, you know, they might be like, hey, this is good football. You know, this is different enough from the NFL that I'd be willing to watch this in spring, you know? And
I have a sorry for interrupting.
It's okay, go for it.
I have a quick question for all you guys. So I did bring up the show match, something that I wanted to sort of touch on for all you guys. If that happened, would you want it to be champion versus champion or no?
Oh yeah. Best of the best versus best of the best.
Here, like, yeah, I'll let everyone answer before I put in my opinion on it.
I kind of agree. I think best on best would probably make the most sense.
I think that probably would make the most sense. It's just that the seasons don't really align, right? So it's like when a Canadian soccer team plays a Mexican soccer team, it's like, well, okay, well, you run two different leagues, right? At two different times. So the closing season in Mexico coincides with the opening of the MLS season. So you only get so much of a true test. It doesn't really show us much of anything, but as far as a crossover, that would be the one to do, because All-Star versus All-Star sounds horrific.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, sure.
I was thinking just sort of like, I don't know, I would rather have the teams that lost in the championships play each other, because I think it devalues the championships on both ends, because
That's definitely
then
fair.
all of a sudden the XFL championship, I don't know if there's a name for it, and then the Grey Cup as well become the semifinal games. It's not what you're looking to win, because it's not the last game.
For me, I would have liked to do like a preseason home and home, just because
That would be cool.
I didn't want to cheapen the Grey Cup or their trophy by having like a game after that, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, Grey Cup, cool, winner plays some American team, whatever, you know. It's like, no, that's not what the Grey Cup is and what it should be. It should be what you strive towards. So for me, yeah, preseason made the most sense, and I'm just gonna finish my point real quick. I talked about getting more American eyes on the game, and that could leverage a better contract for the CFL with ESPN. So they're looking for more revenue. We talked about the financial issues. If you can leverage that deal to bring in more money, then, you know, that would be a huge help.
I'd like to add something, though, just before we change topics here. I had a thought. What happens, like, you know how people complain there's no CFL, like, all-star game? Yeah. And I'm not going back to that, but what if you did, like, an all-star week where it was, like, a competition where they did the stuff they do kind of, like, the same thing they do during the NFL week, and then at the end, you could even just have, like, a flag football game for bragging rights, but it's, like, a whole... You know, you're going through obstacles and sports and different things the whole week, and then it's bragging rights at the end. Just like you said, so it doesn't take away from anyone's trophies.
That'd be cool, CFL skill on skill. What do you guys think of that?
Well, like,
Carter.
Oh, just like the, are you thinking like Pro Bowl week where it's like all those little mini games?
Yeah,
I think that could be fun. I think that could be fun. Let the players' personalities shine through a little bit more, which is always nice.
Yep.
Exactly. And we don't have that right now. Like, we had the CFL week for like 2 years, and then they axed it because of COVID and things. And you don't have that
great
interaction
idea.
with. Yeah. Oh, that
like
was
Jeffrey
so much fun.
Orridge was not the best commissioner, but that was a great idea he had.
Yeah, and that thing's got to be coming back eventually. The thing with an all-star or battle of the network stars, whatever you want to say, with the skills competition, you need to pay the guys money. So you got to find the money and where that's going to come from in all that. And I think it'd be neat because these guys are just ridiculous athletes, ridiculous. So it would be good. But they're replaced to put it on TV. But how are you going to make it worth the guys' while when they got jobs and families to take care of?
That's very true.
That's 100%. You'd have to get sponsorship money involved for that. Like, you'd have to name it something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, the Brick All-Star Weekend or something like that, you know?
Of course.
Safeway presents the Bricks All-Star Weekend. There you go.
There you go. Yep.
Shoehorn as many brands in there as you can.
The Ford, Chevrolet, Tesla All-Star Weekend. I don't know.
They always show a couple, like, they always show a lot of the same ads during the CFL games. What is it, like Riffle Chips?
Shop like a mother. That was a meme in our group chat. Yep.
GMC Sierras, yeah.
Yeah, like, I hope they get a bit more variety there. One thing I remember we talked about marketing players better. Like, Carter, you play a lot of Call of Duty with some CFLers, man. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I know Juwan Breskeson has been talking about. Well, he did it in the past. He did a CFL Warzone competition.
Oh, like seriously?
The rules of it was there needed to be at least one. It was going to be kind of like show matchy kind of thing, where you had to have at least one CFL guy in it. Myself, Jackson Jeffcoat, and Marcus Sales were going to be a team, but that fell through. We didn't end up participating. We did not have the time for it. Things like that, just put it on Twitch and just any way that players can get more.
You talk about marketing to the youth, that would be perfect. Like, if the CFL put like some effort into marketing that, I would have watched that 100%, you know?
I mean, that was just but that was really just Juwan Breskeson wanting to do something fun like that. There's a lot of channels you got to go through to turn that into something.
Oh, true, but like I love that idea of like having like tournaments with these guys, because again, we talk about like a lot of these guys have personality, but it's like they don't show it, right? So yeah, it's just a good idea in my opinion to do more stuff like that to get younger people in that internet crowd involved. So let's jump to our next story. Canadians rejoice as Nathan Rourke wins the backup job over Will Arndt. So let's hype up Nathan Rourke for a bit here.
Don't know anything about Nathan Rourke. Is the best.
That is the best. That is the best thing that I have heard in so long.
Yep.
I'm going to be the Debbie Downer in this whole thing, so you guys go first because I'm going to be the Debbie Downer.
Oh, all right. You guys go.
Okay. Well, you know, I haven't, you know, Mike, but I'm not a big college guy. I haven't watched a lot of college, but he's won a couple trophies. I mean, you're behind Mike Riley. He's not going to see the light of day unless Mike gets destroyed. And I don't know. It's a tough job to fill, and I just feel like it's a rotation. I didn't mind Will Arndt there, and he would have been second or third year there, so I don't know why they wouldn't have kept him and then Rourke or something, but that's just me.
I mean, yeah, they're behind. Like, people need to remember that Michael Riley, who wants us to call him Michael Riley now,
Michael,
is one of. No, scratch that. He is the best quarterback in the CFL most years.
Ooh, good take.
So, and that's the guy that you're behind. So, I just looked on 3 Down Nation. He has a new goal to start a game in 2021. Unless something horrific happens, that's not going to happen.
Or their season is done earlier, and they'll play him in like the 14th game.
Yeah.
All right, DT, you say you're going to be a Debbie Downer. Let's do this.
this is my thing, and I love the Nathan Rourke story, and I love let's get Canadians playing quarterback in the Canadian Football League. Is Nathan Rourke the guy, though, or is he Jordan Lynch Redux? When you look at his when you look at his numbers from Ohio, you go, okay, I need to know why you completed less than 60% of your passes in college football in a non-Power 5 conference. Under 60% might have been okay in 2005, but this is now a 70% passing, completion league.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen here? There's no question he's going to be able to run the ball. And I'm afraid that in the way that we fall in love with Canadian quarterbacks, and you add that to the way we fall in love with running quarterbacks, shout out Rakeem Cato, wherever you might be, I'm afraid that the hype on Nathan Rourke is going to be greatly outsized to how he plays. I hope he's awesome, but I'm really concerned. Completion stat isn't everything, but under 60% in college really gives me a lot of pause.
It's a fair statement. I would say it was a system issue in Ohio. I guess his arm got much better coming into camp, so that's always a good sign. You want to... Because he was regarded as like, okay, he's really mobile, strong dude, but doesn't have the greatest arm. And if he comes into camp with that arm strength, I think that's a huge step forward for him. He's going to have time to learn under Michael Riley and develop. And for me, they are fairly similar quarterbacks, especially starting off their careers as, very mobile, physical players at that position. They both kind of have that hallmark. So
don't make me fight you. Don't make me fight you on this one.
All right. We can go there. We can go there. But for me, I don't know. I think with Mike Riley, I think he's a great person for Nathan Rourke to learn from. And if he is going to develop into, the first regular Canadian starter, I think that's the perfect spot for him. And if he doesn't pan out, just a heads up, there was a 4-star Canadian recruited quarterback who is going to Penn State, who can definitely pass the ball for sure. All right, now DT, you were saying? Let's do this.
Hey, I was going to say, don't make me fight you. What does Mike Riley? Gosh, I'm trying to think of every quarterback in the CFL. What does Mike Riley do better than every quarterback in the CFL right now? And toughness is certainly on there. But Riley is relentlessly accurate with the foot. And he doesn't get a lot of love for that because he's tough and he used to run the ball really well. And he's the best leader and he does have a big arm. But Riley is relentlessly accurate. Like in the charting that I've done, the most accurate quarterback is, it will not surprise you, Ricky Ray. But Mike Riley is behind him. He's number 2 behind him. You just can't survive in football if you're not an accurate passer. And I'm trying to find out what was Riley last season, even in an atrocious BC offense, he was still, okay, so he's always around that 68, 69% mark. Yeah. He was 69.5% completion last year, averaging 10 yards downfield per attempt. Those are fantastic numbers. So while the running may be similar, it's a real high bar to say that he throws the ball like Riley, because Riley is phenomenal.
For sure. I don't think he's there yet, but I think it will come with time, and he's young. He'll get there, I think. It's just a matter of him working on that arm, and if reports out of BC are to be believed, he has put in some work on that arm, and if he can sit and develop from a guy like Mike Riley for a couple years, I think that'll be beneficial. I don't think he's going to be taking his job or anything, but when Mike Riley is ready to hang it up in however many years, Nathan Rourke might be there by that point, because if his arm strength is significantly better, that accuracy can come with age. We've seen that before. So I think it might with Rourke, and even if it doesn't, I think he's probably just a Chris Streveler type at worst. Maybe a little bit better of passer than Streveler, but yeah,
that's a hard mark to pass.
Yeah, that's not exactly a low bar, but or a high bar to clear. But for me, yeah, I think, his floor is all right for me to take that risk. And for him to be behind a guy like Mike Riley who will be willing to teach him and work with him, I love that situation for him, and I'm leaning towards him turning out more than not. So let's jump into our last piece of big news. The trade for Alden Darby. We haven't gotten to our notable cuts. We skipped that. Sorry. Notable cuts include Rodney Smith, who recently went back to Toronto, Kenny Stafford because of a quote-unquote culture fit, Naaman Roosevelt, and Kevin Brown. So which of those do you guys want to talk about?
Sorry, I was confused by the Kenny Stafford one. They brought him in and then let him go right away. I just kind of thought with their history, they'd know what they were getting, but it doesn't seem like it was that way.
Well, apparently Trevor Harris played a big role in getting Kenny Stafford signed to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they were just like, the situation reminds me, obviously not to the same level as what I'm about to say was, but it kind of reminds me of the Tom Brady, Antonio Brown situation, where it's just
where he preached him to come in.
Yeah, and unfortunately didn't work out. But maybe something like that. Maybe there's just a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes with this, which is a shame that most of CFL talks end with that.
Kenny's a different dude. Like, just from getting to know him just a little bit over the season in 19, Kenny's a different dude. Like, I was on the sidelines for a practice and we were watching, and then Kenny Stafford was waving at me for about 2.5 minutes trying to get my attention during stretch. And I'm like, is he waving at me? What's happening here? He can't be waving at me. I'm just going to ignore this. And he kept waving, and I'm like, oh, so Kenny's waving at me. And then I was like, hey, I was waving at you. What are you doing? I'm like, you're a different kind of guy. In Saskatchewan, he was a great teammate. I'll never forget the West Final where it was in doubt whether Shaq Evans could play because he'd injured his toe and he was doing some drills before the West Final. And Stafford, who would have made his first appearance for the Riders if Shaq couldn't go, was there rooting him along. And when Shaq could go, Kenny patted him on the butt and was like, yeah, way to go, man, let's go. He seemed like a good teammate, but if you told me that some people didn't know how to take Kenny, I could believe that entirely. And they are not hurting for receiving talent in Edmonton. So that you lose a guy who has been a real good deep threat in previous seasons, Edmonton will be fine with that. And I would be, if it was a culture thing, I'd be way more worried about my culture than losing the guy who was going to be fourth to Ellingson Walker and Armonte Edwards.
That's fair. I just feel they did him a little dirty by saying culture fit, because imagine if, Carter, I called one of your references for a job, and one of them said, he did great work and all, but he wasn't a culture fit. As a boss, or I guess as a potential employer, how are you going to take that? Because some people might be, oh, that means he's a jerk. Or maybe he was a little introverted and just didn't jive with everybody, I just feel like the way it was worded, they kind of did him a little dirty. How about you guys?
Yeah.
Elizondo getting revenge for how the Red Blacks did him dirty? Maybe. Well, no, I'm just kidding. But, by the way, Jamie Elizondo quit on us was one of the top press releases of my CFL time. I don't even, why bother saying that? I guess the media would be asking, but why say that? Because for exactly the reason that you said there is people now, we all want to know, okay, what was the deal? And we want to press to find out what was the deal.
Yeah, because from your anecdote there, if he's just a little different, like, that's okay. Another example, I think Luke Mullender brought it up on your show. Lucius Purifoy was quote-unquote not a culture fit in Ottawa, but he's been great ever since he got here. He's probably one of our best corners. You never hear about him causing drama or anything. Just seems like a good dude, and I feel that way about Kenny Stafford. Like, I haven't heard of him doing anything where it's like, okay, this guy's a jerk. I don't think that way about Stafford, and it's just like I hate to see his character coming into doubt because of what was said. Because it's like, again, now everybody's gonna wonder. It's like, okay, does this guy have problems, and that may impact his career. You never know. And then Naaman Roosevelt and Kevin Brown. Kevin Brown, I think he was another Edmonton cut. Definitely a decent linebacker. So I
seen.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I seen Derek Dennis was tweeting out today that the Calgary Stampeders should sign Naaman Roosevelt.
Oh yeah.
I bet there's a bunch of teams that are going to be in a bidding war for him because I feel like Ottawa needs to throw him and Kenny Stafford a bag.
Well, I think I don't think Derek was wrong. He'd be a good guy in Ottawa, like a good veteran guy, because they have a lot of young couple 3-year receivers there, and because they got rid of Rogers, and they might have a couple guys, but yeah, it's a pretty young core. He'd be
Rhymes
a good guy to
is
break
gone.
in and lean on.
Your number one receiver's gone. You got RJ Harris, who, I like RJ Harris as a number 2, number 3 receiver. Brad Sinopoli also retired, so your Canadian depth is a bit scary. For me, it's just like, I would love to have a Naaman, Kenny, or both, if they could afford to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Calgary and Ottawa are probably the places I would think Naaman might fit. He doesn't. BC, that spot's occupied, and they could probably go 3 Canadians. Edmonton is fine. Winnipeg, I don't see it. Not coming back to Saskatchewan. Hamilton already has probably the second best receiving core in the league. Ottawa needs talent all over the place, so they should just, whatever they can throw at Naaman is the way to go. Toronto's fine. Montreal obviously just cut him. So that kind of leaves, for me, Calgary and Ottawa. And Calgary has some people who have played Canadian football before, but they are not overwhelmed with talent in their receiving core after Kate Ambles, Mayala, and Kamar Jordan. If Kamar's back 100%, great. But should Josh Huff keep me from putting a very reliable second down receiver and Naaman Roosevelt on the field? I wouldn't think so. So those are 2 I would like to see give him a look.
100%, because I feel like Matt Nichols is going to be under all kinds of hellfire pressure just because basically most of Ottawa's starting offensive line retired, or they left. So it's just like, oh man, you want a sticky-handed guy like Naaman around for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's jump into our next set of news. Let's talk about the Alden Darby trade, and I know, Carter, you had a bit of insight on that.
Well, I just know what's been going on. Unfortunately, the training camps in Winnipeg, I believe they still are closed, especially right now with the air quality. They actually had to cancel practice a couple days ago. But Mercy Maston, one of the people who got the Achilles injury or the Achilles bug, whatever. So trade to Toronto for Alden Darby, and I really like it. I think it's a really good trade. I went back, looked at some of Darby's stuff. I think he's gonna be a good culture fit. Wink, wink. But no, yeah, I like the trade.
You're saying, Taylor?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm excited to see him on Labor Day with the atmosphere in Regina come play here. That's gonna be good. Because no offense to you Winnipeg fans and you, Carter, but I don't think you guys have the best the best DBs. So adding him is really good, and I think it could make it a really entertaining game.
Oh, our secondary got destroyed through COVID.
Sure. Well, and free agency, because you had and the NFL, I guess, because Sales and Rose both left.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sales ended up back in BC. Was Darby one of the guys who clonged into the other dude for Kyron Moore's 98-yard touchdown? Please tell me that was the case. I'm trying to pull up the tape to see that, because that'd be amazing.
Potentially.
I think it might have been.
Yeah, because a lot of those Argos DBs were missing tackles, and he is on that side of the field, so it could have been him. I don't have the tape, but yeah, very likely could have been him. And then, yeah, but I do like that trade with Mercy Matson going out. I think it makes sense for them to go quickly replace a guy like that with a veteran who's been around the league to keep that defense sound. So, do we want to jump into our standing predictions?
Let's do it.
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
All right.
I'm currently watching the touchdown, trying to figure out. It's not great quality, so I can't see the numbers.
Yeah, that's one thing. A nice thing about the CFL is there's a lot of stuff on YouTube for them. Like, there's full games on YouTube that you can find and stuff.
I don't know if that's a good thing, dude.
I mean, there's no other professional league that have their full games on YouTube, but I mean, it is cool because it's like
like the games in 40. I thought you just meant like other people posting.
Oh no! Like there's like full game. If you go and look, you'll find full games on YouTube, and it's like I was watching some of that when I was really missing the league. But it's
there also is full Grey Cups, I think, on YouTube. There used to be, at least, by random people, not the CFL.
Yeah, the CFL should do that and just be like, hey, make a playlist of the season, put ads on it, and then people can just watch it. But
yeah.
Let's jump into our standings here. I'll go first. So this is for the end of the season, what we think the standings are going to look like. For me, I have the Riders being first in the West. I made this prediction before our O-line had some serious depletions with Labatt retiring and Cyrus Kawanjo also retiring. Oh yeah, I misphrased that. Labatt is going to be done for this year. He'll come back next year, maybe later this year if restrictions loosen. But for the Riders, I feel a little bit more shaky about this pick than I did a little while ago, but I still like it. Winnipeg, I feel, is right there with them. I made it clear on this podcast before, I have zero faith in Zach Collaros. Sorry, DT. I know he's your guy. You're on Collaros Island, but that's my take there on Zach Collaros.
The governor of Collaros Island is very disappointed in that statement.
I'm sorry. And then Edmonton.
Also,
oh yeah, go for it, Carter.
Sorry to interrupt. I was able to find a good quality clip of the touchdown, and I can't.
Alden Darby was the safety.
He was one of them. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Darby and Kadarius Ford blam into each other, and hey, Kyron Moore, 98 yards.
Yep.
Longest touchdown since 2002 for the Riders.
That's sick.
It's a great play.
Great
play.
Great play from Toronto.
Yeah, no doubt. Toronto, just that defense, man. But for me, I have Edmonton being third, and some people are going to be surprised by that. I just look at them, and the teams behind them, I think their offense is, the best of the rest, if not second, and that defense is certainly the best of the rest. When I look at those other two defenses, they have very notable holes, whereas Edmonton, there isn't really the holes that I see with the other ones. Like, their secondary is excellent. Their front seven are good. Their defensive line is one of the best in the league with ratio breaker Kwaku Boateng, and I've been saying this since Betts got drafted, but probably Betts or another Canadian defensive end on that other side. I think you see that this year. I don't know when the last time we had two Canadian defensive ends start consistently for a team, but I think that'll happen. And then Calgary, I just think they lost too many pieces, so I have them at third. Or fourth, sorry. And then last in the West, I have BC. BC could be a dark horse. I could be totally wrong on this. Because that offense, with what they added with Dominic Rhymes and that excellent receiving core and Riker Matthews on that offensive line, they look good. Like, that offense looks great. The defense for me is the biggest question mark there. In the East, Hamilton's obviously first. They're just too good not to be. Montreal is second. I really like Vernon Adams. He's got that it factor that you just can't teach. And that team is just so fun to watch. Toronto got better, but I still feel like they have maybe a season or two before they catch Montreal. And then, as I mentioned, Toronto third. Those new additions will help, but I don't think they'll get them past Montreal. Ottawa, my prediction of them having 2 wins is looking better and better. So I'm sticking with them last in the East and last in the league. Now, on to Taylor's selections.
Yeah. So I don't doubt Calgary. I think somehow they're still going to pull it off. I remember last year when we talked before the last season, that I said that we all kind of thought that they were going to fall off. They didn't. I mean, they didn't win the Grey Cup, but they still performed. So I think they'll do well again. And then I just got Sask and Edmonton and Winnipeg. I think it's going to be a toss up between the three. And BC will be at the bottom again because they have no protection for Mike Riley. He'll be able to throw the ball, but they don't have defense either. Sorry. And in the East, I have Hamilton, Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. I think there'll be a pretty big gap between Hamilton and Montreal. And Toronto and Montreal could fight for that second or third spot, but it's going to depend if Toronto's pieces actually click. And then Ottawa is just going to be at the bottom of the barrel again. They got, no offense to them, but I don't see nothing happening for them for a couple more years. So that is my take.
For me, I'm going for Winnipeg and Sask. I've got it on our little document here saying that I'll decide when we record. And what I've been thinking is just, I think whoever gets luckier with injuries. Really, I think that's the team that finishes first. I think whichever
Sask
team
is what you're saying there. Man, 5 Achilles. Wondering who's luckier with injury? 5 Achilles already, Carl.
Well, I don't know. The Bombers are kind of known for having it's weird. We get off super hot to start, and then injury bug always gets us. Like Jackson Jeffcoat's been gone for the latter half of the season for multiple years. We always seem to lose our starting quarterback gets hurt for a little bit. I mean, Nichols was out for the season. Luckily, it turned into Caleros, but for a while there, it was stressful. So yeah, it's closer than I'd like to admit as a Bomber fan. But yeah, that's what I think decides that. In third, I actually really like BC this year. I remember the offensive line getting really, not really, but a lot better after towards the last 3 weeks of the season. It's kind of like they flipped the switch. If they can continue that, I think they'll be good. I think Calgary has I think they've lost too much. So I'm putting them in dead last. Fourth, I'm screwing up my order here, but fourth is going to be Edmonton. Fifth is Calgary. Yeah, that's how I feel personally. I'm not high on the Edmonton Elks name or team right now, but that's me. In the East, obviously Hamilton first. I've got Montreal second. This might be my homer showing. I don't care. I like Lapalisse and Nichols and the fact that they were able to stick together in Ottawa. So I think they'll have actually a surprising amount of offensive spark. So I'm saying that.
Good luck with that receiving core.
That's a hot take. Well, you got a couple guys there. Two.
We welcome hot takes on this podcast, so that is fine.
So I like that. I think Toronto is the team that's going to need a year to put all the pieces together.
That is definitely interesting. Derek,
has way more talent than Ottawa. Carter, what do you see in Ottawa? Because Toronto to me has way more talent position per position than Ottawa. What do you see from the Red Blacks?
For the Red Blacks, I just see I see Peterman as somebody who could really develop into a solid number 2, even a number 1. I really liked him when he was in Winnipeg. I think having Matt Nichols is consistently slept on. I will say Ottawa's defense could let them down, but I think that there was a winning culture established in some of those players, and I think they'll be able to bring that over.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it definitely you could flip these on a dime. Kind of how I feel with Winnipeg and Sask, but at the bottom of the league. But personally, I think Ottawa squeaks it out.
All right, Derek, let's hit your picks.
All right, Edmonton wins the West. Edmonton, that roster might be weak at middle linebacker, and I hope they don't go 2 Canadians at defensive end just for the sake of. I think that I don't know how you manage that with depth, but receivers, offensive line is fine. Running backs I don't care about, but James Wilder is good. Trevor Harris, great. Defensive backfield, awesome with street free agents like Jonathan Rose, Jonathan Mincy, and then, oh, by the way, Aaron Grimes is back. I think Edmonton, top to bottom, has the best roster in the West. Winnipeg is number 2. That's predicated on Zach Caleros being healthy. Saskatchewan is 3. I hope they can hold on, but these injuries are piling up in some terrible spots. BC and Calgary, to me, were super close for 4-5. But as I go through BC's roster, I just see fewer areas of concern than I do with Calgary. So, yeah, I'm with Carter that Calgary finishes last in the West. East, Hamilton is the best team in the CFL. No brainer. Toronto, for me, is number 2, and it's Toronto added a lot of talent, but I think Vernon Adams is in for a major fall this season. To me, there were too many things that he did that were unsustainably good that are going to come back and get him at some point. Interceptions dropped by defenders. He had less than 60% of his interceptable passes picked off, which is a number that's you're going to come back and all of a sudden you've thrown 25 picks in an 18-game season. His performance under pressure was outsized to what you can expect long term, so that's going to be a problem. And what was the third one? He does a lot of things that make me think he got lucky in 2019, and he's even with an improved receiving core. To me, Vernon Adams is not going to get lucky again. Oh, his deep ball. He was the number 2 rated deep ball passer in the league. That's going to regress just because that's a stat that doesn't carry forward year over year. So when that goes wrong, and oh, by the way, Montreal starts with Edmonton, the bye, then Edmonton and at Calgary, and then versus Hamilton. So what happens to the Alouettes when they start the season 0-3? Because that's a brutal schedule to start with. To me, they are number 3. They're still a mile ahead of Ottawa. I think Lapalisse is a great scheme guy. I think he got $2 worth of value for every dollar they paid Matt Nichols. What's he as a head coach? We don't really know. And they don't have the talent. They're the 9th most talented roster. So I don't think that I wouldn't give Paul Lapalisse the credit that I might give Dave Dickinson in able to turn lemons into lemonade. Let's say that.
That's fair. For me, I'm polar opposites with you on Vernon Adams. We might have to make another friendly bet like we did with the fantasy league, which I don't know. I think you still owe me that Blizzard, but
why do you like Vernon Adams? What do you see in Adams that you like?
Just from when he came into the league, when Montreal was still searching for that successor to Calvillo, he just had that it factor. Like when he was on the field, it's like when you see Mike Riley or Bo, they just have that it factor. Cody has it too. It's something you can't teach. It's intangible. I think he's a good leader, and when things aren't going well, like you mentioned, through the air, I think he's got the legs to be able to, okay, I'm going to be a mobile quarterback now, and he's got stand back there too. So if he does regress as a quarterback, okay, let's give the ball a bit more to William Standback. I don't think anyone's going to be complaining about that too much. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
He's just...
What part of the it factor is throwing it to the opposition, though? That's the problem I have with him. He throws the ball to the opposition. That is what part of the it factor is that one?
That is not part of the it factor. But I mean, in fairness, that was his first year as a full-time starter. So I feel
first year.
Oh, true.
Derek Taylor was like, I'm going to go on these guys' podcast and murder a quarterback.
It's okay.
No.
You and me have different quarterback takes all the time, and that's totally fair.
Yeah. And I've been saying the same thing about Vernon for a while. Vernon I just call them adjusted interceptions. So interceptions you threw, ones that were dropped by defenders, ones that were prevented by receivers, and then subtract ones that weren't the quarterback's fault. Cody had more. Those are 2 quarterbacks that bust out in 2019.
Yeah.
Cody had more pass attempts. I think 60 more pass attempts. But Vernon Adams had 10 more adjusted interceptions. He threw a ball to a defender 1 every 16 times he threw the ball, which is, it's not the highest number I've ever seen, but it's in that ballpark. And he stares at receivers like nobody else in the CFL. And when you stop, like if you look at it and go, okay, well, how many of those touchdowns he ran for were quarterback sneaks? Like 11 out of 13, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you don't do that much with them in that part of the game. I just think that 0-3, Standback's going to lead the league in rushing, and I think it's partly because there's going to be regression from Vernon Adams.
That's definitely a fair point to make. We'll have to see. Again, he's young, so I'm not gonna write him off too quickly. Schultz is a nice backup there too, so if something does happen, it's not the worst thing. But yeah, you and me just have different takes. I think he's got the leadership and the it factor, and I think he probably did put the work in the off season to improve some of those aspects. But again, we'll see. I'll bet you a Blizzard. We'll see who's right there. Does he, significantly regress, or is he step up or stay the same?
Oh yeah, he regresses. He regresses big. It'll be uncomfortably big in my mind.
You should do a over under 15 interceptions.
I don't know that because I'd have to go back and look at how many interceptions he had last year, but I consider it a bet if he significantly regresses or if he's similar. It's a bet. And then, so with that finished, let's hit our power rankings for week 1.
Our way too early power rankings.
Yeah, way too early power rankings, to be fair. Because who knows? Hamilton, their entire roster could have Achilles injuries tomorrow. We have no idea.
Yeah, because that's the team it's going to happen to. Yeah, not a different one.
Hasn't been the Riders this whole
time. Or someone's going to walk into the stadium and bust Mazzoli and Dane Evans' kneecaps or something. But you never know what's going to happen day to day, man. But
Ottawa just sends a hit squad.
Yeah. Ottawa sends a hit squad to take out every team in the league. It's like, hey, we're finally the best team in the league. They pull up a bunch of bum players. Oh, never mind. But as of day of recording, July 26th, 2021, I have Hamilton in first. No-brainer, best team in the CFL. Winnipeg, I have number 2. That defense, that front 7 still scares me. I don't have the most faith in Collaros, but they're a good team. Edmonton, they, as DT mentioned, they probably do have the best roster on paper, Another cornerback they have that I'm really high on is Jonathan Mincy. Shutdown guy, I love him. So I just don't see a hole in that defense, really. They mentioned Kevin Brown, I guess, but or not Kevin Brown, middle linebacker. But other than that, yeah, I love that team. Saskatchewan, the offensive line is gonna scare me because in the green and white game I was there and watching. Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not start Brett Boyko at tackle. Please, please, please. I know he was hurt last year, but I was watching the green and white game, and he is not a tackle. He was getting beat all the time. It was just, people were just speed rushing by him. And it was just, the times he was able to hold guys down, he kind of used his size and went into them. He got beat so much that it just scared me. Hopefully you're going with one of the Americans there, but other than that real hole in the offensive line, I think Saskatchewan's going to be good. That secondary is one of, if not the best secondary in the league. That D-line is a question mark, but I like some of the guys that I saw and some of the things I've been hearing about in camp for that open defensive end spot. Micah Johnson, I think he gets back to Micah Johnson form. So, Riders, 4th in my power rankings. Montreal, again, fun team to watch. They do have more holes. They lost their Canadian tackle, Tyler Johnston, and they lost Trey Rutherford to retirement, which I think both of those have been criminally understated as to Montreal and their potential success. But yeah, they're number 5, even though they don't really play this week. Calgary, number 6. Again, I just think they lost too much. Their American receivers aren't very good. I love their Canadian receivers. Like, James is probably fuming at us because he's a huge Stamps fan. I also share his love for Hershey Mayala, and Richard Sindani, Campbell Collegiate alumni. But, yeah, for me, Calgary is just, they've lost too much. And then BC, they got significantly better. That offense is going to be scary. I think with the addition of Dominic Rhymes and Riker Matthews, filling that black hole at tackle. That is a huge improvement. Number 8, Argos. I think they're going to need a couple weeks to put everything together with all the new additions they have. And Ottawa, because Ottawa are a bunch of bums, pretty much, talent-wise. Taylor, do you want to kick off?
Yeah. Well, I got Edmonton number 1 for me. I just like we've kind of been stating this whole podcast, they're just on paper. They look like that receiving core. They got Trevor Harris. They got James Wilder. Their defense is really good as well, all over the place. So I see them at the top. I wanted to put Hamilton there, but my mind always goes back to the Grey Cup and kind of what happened there. I still think they're going to be the best in the East, and they're going to be a problem for everybody. But I still think Edmonton's better. And then I have Winnipeg and Saskatchewan in 4 and 5. In 3 and 4, sorry. And I think Winnipeg, just with like the Riders' injury stacking up, it just week 1, we might have a rough get-go out of the gate. And then I have Calgary, Montreal, and I think Calgary might struggle at the start, but they always find a way at the end. So this is week 1. Montreal, BC, Toronto, and Ottawa. They're just, I think those are they'll be the losers of the games, and they're not going to, they have a lot of work to do, including Ottawa and BC specifically. I didn't see them do a lot to protect Mike, so I think he's still going to get hit a lot, and Ottawa is going to have some time to get what they need going. And that's my take.
Okay, so I'm saying number 1, Hamilton. I think that they are the strongest team in the league. Again, Grey Cup, they basically just the wheels fell off. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. That being said, I still think Winnipeg is second. I think that they are just the fact that through the pandemic, the only real punch to the gut that they had was their secondary, but they've been able to sort of patch that up a little bit. So I like them there. Third, I have Saskatchewan. I think Saskatchewan's built something really, really good, especially centered around Fajardo, but we'll see, because people have been high on quarterbacks before after 1 year, and then they've turned into John Jennings. So we'll see. Not wishing that, but just saying that that's happened.
Fair.
Fourth, I've got Edmonton. I think they're a really strong team. I think that they're going to put it together and become a force eventually, but I think that they've got to figure it out for 1 or 2 weeks. Then I got BC sort of right in the middle of the pack. Go down, got Montreal, Calgary in 7th. Again, pieces are just gone. 8th, Toronto, and in 9th, I've got Ottawa, but because of my actual rankings, I do see that improving a little bit throughout the season.
Right. Well, Hamilton, best roster in the league, number 1. They're a top 2 defensive backfield. They're the best receiving core, and they're the best 4-man defensive line in the CFL. I think Hamilton's awesome. If Brandon Banks is in the Grey Cup, then I think they had a chance, but that hip injury kind of bit them. Edmonton talked about how they improved. They're number 2. I feel bad putting them number 2 in a power ranking over Winnipeg, because I think week 1 Winnipeg, defensive backfield question marks, but that front 4 that could just murder people. Love it. Offensive line, good. Receivers, okay. Running backs, I pick any one of the top 2 running backs there, throw them in there. And I love Zach Caleros. So I feel that's maybe 2 and 2A. Saskatchewan and 4. They're not as good a team as they were last year. How could you be with the personnel losses they've had? But I have my fingers crossed. Toronto, BC, Calgary 7. Montreal gets the bye, but they're just awaiting an 0-3 start. And the reasons I mentioned with Vernon Adams, I can't wait to see William Stanback absolutely just crush dudes under his foot. That's going to be awesome. That guy is special. And Ottawa, number 9 with a bullet. We're all on Ottawa being the least powerful team for the week 1 power rankings.
Yep. I know Micah Alway has sometimes jawed me on our social media about having Ottawa last in everything, which I know Taylor and Carter love, but I mean, it's kind of true. I like you, Micah Alway, and if you're listening to this, I'm very sorry, but Man,
I like
you know,
I like Micah Johnson. Prove us wrong, dude.
yeah, prove us wrong.
Exactly.
You look at the best players, they use this as fuel. So if I'm Ottawa, put all of this on a board and say everybody is picking you to be bums this year. Now, are you going to go and be bums, or are you going to be studs? You know, and if I'm the coach, that's what I say to them. You know, and hype them up. But
Can we do a little thing while we're here?
sure.
Because I've tried to do this. I've tried to do this on my show. Give me a player from Ottawa that you would take on your team, that you would put on another team and go, yeah, that guy's an improvement over what we have.
Cleon Lang, Canadian defensive tackle.
That's absolutely one of them for sure.
Pruneau, Mike Edelman, Pruneau, I don't know. That's kind of iffy for me. If you're talking Sam Pruneau, probably though.
I mean, I'd go open. Like I've said this a bunch of times. I was on Camp Nichols over Camp Caleros.
Oh, okay.
You and Derek might have to fight on that one.
Hard disagree, but I can see it. Yeah. Nichols is a good quarterback in the CFL. I can see that. But RJ Harris, I would take on my team if it was the number 2 or the number 3. Avery Williams at that weak side linebacker, bring it on. I enjoy him. Abdul Kana, good. Sherrod Baltimore, good. Don Unamba at Sam, sure, I could see it. I have to stop after Nolan McMillan. Okay. Oh, pardon me. Mark Cordy. Good. After that, it's a bunch of guys who wouldn't make a lot of teams. I feel like Frank Beltre is my starting defensive end. Frank's a nice dude, but he's a depth defensive end in the CFL, and he has to start for this team. Devon Coleman is a depth defensive tackle now, and he has to start for this team. They got a lot of depth players. They're like the Houston Texans of the CFL right now. They got some depth players, but they don't have the number ones that I want. And I hear good things about Daniel Peterman. My buddy Marshall Ferguson played with Peterman, but he's that Z receiver. So he's 50 miles from the ball, and he's going to see 35 targets unless Lapo figures something out for him. So I don't see the talent that other teams salivate to try and get.
That's fair. Let's just hope Matt Nichols doesn't go full Deshaun Watson on us, okay? Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, we were all thinking that. I had to say it. I'm sorry. It was too good to pass up.
Is a hat that says, instead of game manager says massage enthusiast? Is that what you're thinking? Come on, man.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Yes. Oh man, I love that we can make those jokes on this podcast, man. All right, so now that we've laughed our way through the power rankings, let's jump into value picks here. So I'll go over these, and if I'm missing somebody, just let me know. I have Braden Lenius for $2,500. Obviously, again, the CFL Fantasy. In case you don't know, we all love CFL Fantasy here. So, yeah, but
we do.
Braden Lenius, he has been a slot receiver in Ryder Camp, so he's going to get some decent targets, and for $2,500, can't go wrong. And then I have Brady Oliveira, who is $3,000, / Johnny Augustine, who is $2,536, and I have an asterisk there because it depends on the health of Andrew Harris. Sometimes, again, if you're listening to this podcast long enough, I will mix up the Harrises. I apologize for that in advance if it happens. But for me, yeah, it seems like, Carter, you might know more about this. Is Andrew Harris nursing an injury?
From what it looks like, yes. I mean, he's limping after drills. That's not an Andrew Harris thing that normally happens. You know, it's just like, I feel like they're trying to hide it because I feel like they're trying to not have it turn into a big thing like, oh, will he play week 1? But it's almost an adverse effect where it's like they're keeping quiet about it. He's not going to play week 1, you know?
Yeah, because Winnipeg likes to play their cards close to the vest. So when the depth chart comes out, we'll find out. So that's what that asterisk is. And if he is hurt, Brady Oliveira / Johnny Augustine, whoever started in there, I was told by Eddie Steele that Brady Oliveira is the number 2 guy there, so lean towards him if you have to. And then I got Devontae Dedmon in Ottawa because they have no receivers. And Richardson Danny at $26.72. I think that's a nice option in Calgary. Are there any other guys that you guys would consider value picks, 3,500 and under?
I looked through and I couldn't find any. Those are the ones that if I had to throw one on my team, it'd be Devontae Dedmon for sure. Or I'd take a shot. Actually, I think I have Sindani on my team, so I think they're good.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think that Winnipeg flows through their running backs. So even if Harris isn't there, like if Harris especially isn't there, then I'm taking whoever's starting that game.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Right? If it's Johnny Augustine, the 2 games he played against Saskatchewan in 19,
right,
he was essentially Andrew Harris. So that's a no-brainer. Braden Lenius should be on everybody's roster because that cat in the first game is going to get 6 or 7 targets, and whatever he does with them, you need to pay a lot more money to get a guy who's going to get 7 targets. So that's absolutely a guy. I'm terrified of anybody from Ottawa because they are going to get just murdered by Edmonton. And $2,900, I'd maybe give it a shot, especially if Dedmon's in the return game. And I assume he's that boundary wide receiver, but I have fears of what that offense looks like. So I kind of I pull a stay away from Ottawa in that because they're going to get just slaughtered in that game.
Oh, 100%. I got Lenius on my roster as my value pick. My team right now as it stands is Trevor Harris, Jack Cooper, James Wilder, Darrell Walker, Huff, Lenius, and the Elks defense. And then I'll give honorable mentions to Timothy Flanders, who's $3,588, and Levi Noel, who's $3,522, as those guys just are over a requirement of $3,500. So I'll jump to our best positional options. We'll start at quarterback and work our way down. We have Cody Fajardo at $10,695, Trevor Harris at $9,805, and lastly, Bo Levi Mitchell at $9,566. What do you guys think? Would you add someone else into that mix?
Well, I got Trevor Harris on my team, so I'm good with Trevor Harris. I think like Derek's been saying, he's going to light Ottawa up, so I think he's a really good pick to have week 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, when you just look at the best positional players right now, I can't really dispute this.
Yeah, I take Trevor Harris to save the money, right? Fajardo might run for a touchdown, which would be great, but if I can save $900 and take Trevor Harris if I can stack against Ottawa at any point in the early part of the season, I'm absolutely going to do it. So take Trevor and Ellingson, or Trevor and Darrell Walker. Walker's probably a little bit outpriced for what we might get. Harris to me is a no-brainer to be a quarterback for week number 1 because Bo Levi Mitchell is so interesting in that he's a great quarterback, but he's not a great fantasy quarterback, and that always puzzles me.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's because he doesn't run the ball at all, so it's just you don't get those sweet rushing points. And I know Trevor Harris is sometimes used in that, 3rd and inches role, so maybe you get a touchdown out of him, but he isn't that mobile either. But I don't know, he just racks up a ton of yards.
You know who's a good fantasy quarterback?
Oh.
You know who's a good fantasy quarterback? MBT.
I was just going to say.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. The only reason he's not on here is it's not confirmed if he's the starter or not. If he was confirmed, he would be on here. Because I love MBT as well. I still don't know who's starting there, because all of you think it's going to be him.
It's going to be McLeod.
I'm still thinking that maybe Arbuckle sneaks his way on there.
No way.
So, yeah.
It's Arbuckle's old coach. That's the thing, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
MBT needs to be a starter. Like, I would take MBT over Nichols in a heartbeat.
Me too.
Give me the option.
Hell yes. But
I'm not personally. I wouldn't be 100% on that, but
if there was a stock market for CFL quarterbacks, you'd probably be the only one holding the Nichols stock still. Everybody else would
probably.
Everybody else would be sell. And then Carter's like, I'm just going to hold on to this for a rainy day.
Ride the wave.
Yeah.
Come back.
Going to the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, to the moon, baby. That's where I'm at with Vernon Adams. But yeah, we'll see on that one. And then let's jump into our running backs. Andrew Harris at $9,172. William Powell at $6,919. James Wilder Jr. at $5,722. And Shaq Cooper at $5,428.
Yeah, William Powell's my guy starting this week, so I just think that's the way to go. He's gonna have a good game against that BC defense. I don't think they stand much of a chance against him, and the games they played in the past, he's done really well. So I think that should be your starter, one of the two at least.
I disagree with Andrew Harris being on this list right now, because even if he gets the start, who's to say, especially with what's happening right now, that he'll play the entire game? So you burn that not only you burn that on that much money on a quarterback, or not quarterback, on a running back that's not going to play the whole game or is questionable too. I would not touch that, especially at that price point.
Anybody starting for Harris though is your first pick for sure?
They're up there.
If it's Oliveira or if it's Augustine, that guy's guaranteed to be on your roster though, because I will 100% put that cat on my roster.
I have enough cap that if it's Oliveira or Augustine, I'm just going to swap Lennius for one of them.
Oh, I think a $3,000 running back who will take starter carries in a game that they could. It's not inconceivable that they win. I love running backs from winning teams, and if I get a guy for $3,000, I'll take it. I think James Wilder Jr. was my first running back off the board because again, running backs from teams that are going to win. And it's only $5,700. I saved $1,200 off of William Powell, and I could spend that somewhere else. I like JWJ. No one else on the Wilder? No one else getting Wilder with me?
Hey, I'm getting Wilder with you. My two running backs are Wilder and Shaq Cooper. I think Shaq Cooper is criminally underrated. Speaking of which, I was just thinking about because one of the guys is dogging me how I said Shaq Cooper was a upgrade over John White. And they keep dogging me about that. It's like, oh no, he's not as good at all. It's like, nah, I don't know about that. And then I just realized Brandon Rutley is still a free agent. How is that a thing? Because who the hell is Ottawa's running back?
Timothy Flanders, the guy that played Blackpool a few years ago.
Yeah, like Rutley could beat that guy for sure,
But he knows his RBs, right? Nobody on Kadeem Carey against Toronto in this one?
I am not living the Kadeem with Kadeem unless
oh God.
unless they can prove to me he's the starter.
Yeah.
The Kadeem with Kadeem. That we're gonna keep that one. But
cut the podcast off, bro. It's over.
Well, we have a lot of good inside jokes on this podcast, but
that is not one of them. Is that what we're saying?
Hey, I haven't used our other one, much to the chagrin of Carter. I could make a needles and arms with Andrew Harris joke, but I've taken the high road on that one.
Oh yes, that's why you just brought it up. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because I've been thinking about it, man. It's like, hey, but I'm not going with Kadeem until he shows that he is the alpha number one running back in Calgary, and they're not gonna use like 2 or 3 running backs. Like if he gets all the carries though, I'm considering him next week. That's where I'm at with Kadeem.
I don't think they have. I mean, apart from anti-leader and now Calvin McCarty, like I think they only have one other American running back out there. So I think they might be caught in this thing where they love, ever since Jerome Messam, they've loved to just keep rotating these cats through. I don't know if they have many other options other than Carey. So as it gets closer, I'm going to look at that one because $5,100 for an RB right now is a good price in a game that I think Calgary can win.
Oh, no doubt. Like, yeah, if someone went with that, I wouldn't hate it. But I just think Shaq Cooper and Wilder are better options.
Hold on. I got a question for DT here. So I know we're saying stay away from Ottawa and everything, but would you take Timothy Flanders? Like, I see him getting the ball a lot, no matter what, because they're going to run out of options.
Running out of options is a decent point. There's just teams that win the game run the ball so much more, and as you get to the fourth quarter, teams that are losing end up being well over 80% passing. So I don't really think Flanders is a viable option for me in week number one, because I think Ottawa's chasing that game the whole way. Are they going to get to the red zone a bunch and give him touches inside the 5? I'm on that they're so bad bandwagon that, and who knows if Galanders ends up getting some carries as well, right? Whatever Canadian they roster that game. So I think if Timothy Flanders was the Winnipeg running back, I'd take him in a heartbeat. But it's just the team that he plays behind and the offensive line that they play behind. I think it's just for me, it's just trouble in week one.
Okay, well, fair enough. I like that take.
Yeah, same here. There is a meta to CFL fantasy every year. If you're not familiar with the term meta, it just means like a specific way of doing things. Like Carter, you and I are gamers, so we're familiar with that term. Some years the meta is to not take defenses and just roll with higher end players. And 2019, the meta was just bullying the crap out of Ottawa and whoever was playing them. And I think you saw when I said my roster, I'm leaning towards that again, and I think you guys should too.
Yeah, pick on the Ottawas and Torontos from 2019, right? That was the 3 and 4 win team. Nothing wrong with beating on teams in fantasy.
Oh, 100%. So let's jump into the wide receivers now. We got Braylon Addison for $9,167. Eric Rogers for $8,294. Jarrell Walker for $7,985. Greg Ellingson for $7,488. Shaq Evans for $6,809. Juwan Breskinson, $4,179. Josh Huff, same. Markeith Ambles, $4,098. And Jordan Williams Lambert at $3,978. Was there any that I missed?
Yes.
All right, hit me.
Lamar Durant.
Lamar Durant.
Oh, what's he go for?
5,062. He's not a bad second pick there. He's not the most expensive, but if Riley's throwing, it's to him or Burnham.
Or Dominic Rhymes. Yeah.
Or Dominic Rhymes. True.
But Durant's that number 2 to the field, and that's good stuff. Yeah. I'm with that.
Yeah, I can't hate that pick if someone goes with that. I just you notice I shied away from the BC receivers, and that's not because I think they're bad. It's just because they're facing that Saskatchewan secondary, right? And like Saskatchewan is one of those teams that just shuts down guys, and guys don't have their best games against that secondary very often. So I shied away from the BC guys and kind of went towards matchups with some of those picks.
But when those players do against the Riders, when they do have their game against them, it's a game.
Week 2, Dominic Rhymes says, "What's up?"
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Dominic Rhymes is on this team, so
yep.
Maybe he should have been in there. But yeah, for me, I just thought matchup, and then some of you may be wondering, oh, why not Banks or Burnham or Kamar Jordan in here? I'm looking at the 3 most expensive receivers. And it's just because I don't like those prices. Yeah, like...
To me, everybody in CFL Fantasy has to have Braden Lennius on their roster in week 1. You absolutely have to. That many targets for $2,500, gotta be done.
Yep, you and me are same page. The only way he's getting off my roster is if Oliveira or Johnny Augustine start. Then I'm swapping him out for one of them. Maybe move up to Huff. I swap him in Huff and then upgrade to Braylon Addison from Darrell Walker, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's the play there. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's for the receivers. Traditionally, we have not picked a lot of defenses in our fantasy picks. Sometimes we even advise against it on some weeks. But for this one, smash that Elks defense. Like, pick them. I don't care if you don't have enough money. Make room for them, because Ottawa is really that bad, and Edmonton's defense is really that good. Is there any
Yeah.
Is there anybody else to consider?
Yeah.
As far as turnovers, because I mean, one thing Nichols does is protect the ball, right? That guy threw 5 picks last season and doesn't have interceptable passes. So, is there somebody else to consider?
That's a good question. I just feel like Edmonton's going to get an insane amount of sacks too. So, like, even if they don't get the picks, they'll get the sacks. You know,
like maybe Calgary's defense, but they're expensive for what you're going to get out of them. That would be my argument with that.
Yeah, and they lost big parts of that secondary. So if you have McLeod going in there, he's going to torch them.
So. But it could you could say Hamilton's defense at Hamilton could be so mad at Winnipeg that they're going to destroy them and light them up. Like that's still that's a good defense on that team. That's a tough one.
We could see Simone Lawrence Part 2 Electric Boogaloo with Zach Collaros, but I mean, for his sake, I hope not. But at the same time, you know, if that happens, then Winnipeg's defense makes sense. But yeah,
anybody for Toronto against Calgary for $500 less than Edmonton? Toronto's
that could be interesting. Like if you're a gambling boomer bust type of fantasy player, I could see that. But for me, I tend to be more conservative. Give me the sure things more than the risk. So but yeah, I definitely could see someone going with Toronto, especially with that defensive line looking scary. You know, Sean Oakman, you got there Shane Ray, and then you got CFL vets like Hughes and Law on that line too, which, like, there's not enough starting spots for all those guys. So I don't know how they're going to make that work. But yeah, I think that concludes those recommendations. And then we're going to go and talk about our locks here. These are picks that we are not taking out of our roster no matter what. For me, it's the Elks defense. Like I said, hammer that. I think they're going to put up like 15 to 20. So you got to pick.
No, fair enough. Well, I took William Powell with my lock. Since we've been talking about fantasy, I've been changing my whole team around, and everything has changed but William Powell. So, I think he's going to have a good game against BC, and he should get you at least 20 points, my guess.
I like Tim Flanders because I think with the amount of touches that he's going to get versus the cost that he is, I think he's going to be a very good value player.
I'm on Trevor Harris. I don't see another quarterback that I want to play. I could save a couple bucks, and I just think Edmonton puts a 50 burger on Ottawa, and there could be a lot. It could be the 6 touchdown playoff game redux for Trevor Harris.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I was leaning that way, but I was like, that just for me, I wanted to go with a more interesting pick, so I went with the Elks defense. I like that pick too, though. Like, I'm definitely picking Trevor Harris this week. Again, the meta is going to be to bully the crap out of Ottawa until further notice. So, yeah, Trevor Harris, I like that one. William Powell, I don't think you can go wrong there. I think BC, that defense did have some issues with the run, so I don't hate that pick. Tim Flanders, I like that as a value option too. So those are all good picks. And then let's jump into our pick'em. I almost forgot this, but usually we do predictions for who we think is going to win every week and then tally it up at the end of the year. So for game 1, I have Hamilton beating Winnipeg. 2, I have Sask beating BC. 3, I have Calgary beating the Argos. And then, obviously, the Elks crushing the Red Blacks.
Nice pick. So mine's a little different from yours. I'm going with all the home teams. I'm picking Winnipeg over Hamilton, Sask over BC, Calgary over Toronto, and Edmonton. Edmonton's going to dominate that game. So yeah, I think those are going to be some good home game wins week 1.
Yeah, I think Winnipeg starts off hot again. I think this would be like the 3rd or 4th year that they start out really hot. I take Saskatchewan. I think they're going to win. I think Toronto's going to pull an upset in week 1. I think Toronto does that. And then I've got, of course, Edmonton beating Ottawa.
I like the thought of the Toronto upset in Calgary. That would set a real nice tone for the season. Hamilton, Sask, but it's getting closer in my mind. Calgary and Ottawa in the massive upset.
Oh boy.
That'll never happen.
Matt Nichols scrambling for triple digits. Let's go.
Anybody going to bet any CFL this year? I just want to throw something out to anybody who might bet a CFL game this year.
I'm considering it with single game betting. Yeah.
So just based on, they're going to put the line out based on what happened in 2019. So Edmonton and Ottawa is going to be, I think, is going to be a closer line than many people would expect it to be. And I think it's Edmonton -6, I think is going to be the line. And that will be insane to me when I see that. I'll rub my eyes twice and be like, I can't believe I'm seeing this, and then bet my mortgage on it, because come on.
Fair enough. For me, it's just with gambling, I don't understand the negative odds. The positive odds I get, like if you bet $100, it's $150. I think you'd win $50. But with the negative odds, I don't understand, because for me, it sounds like you would lose money. Like if I put 100,000 down, I'd get 85 back. I'm not sure if that's how that works or not. How do negative odds work, DT?
So the basic line would be -110. What would we do? Hamilton, Winnipeg. Hamilton is going to be, say on the money line, they both be -110. So you'd have to bet $110, and then if you win that game, you would win $100 plus your original money back. So your 110 would get you 210. If it was plus 110, you would bet $100 and win $110. So minus is you're paying a little more, like you get, -200 is you bet $2 to win $1 back, plus your original wager. The plus money is the exact opposite of, you would bet $1 at plus 200 to win $2, plus your dollar back.
That makes sense. I might have to go back to the over-under odds then, because I was looking at that earlier, and I was like, they're all like 115 or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, I might have to do that now. And how about you guys, Carter, Taylor? How about you guys for gambling? What do you think?
I whenever I look at that stuff, whenever I look at like sports odds, that stuff, I always flip it to the decimal system. It just makes my brain process it easier.
That game comes in at 187, right? And that makes sense, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm open to it. I think it's a lot better than having to say like, oh, I'm gonna get 3 out of the 4 games correct, or else you get no money, So I'm probably gonna dabble in it, but not a ton.
Crazy story, now that you mention it. I ran before CFL Pick'em and CFL Fantasy existed, back in the days when I was a young kidette, I ran a CFL Pick'em league where I would basically text people, get their predictions for the games. And we had this one chick who said she knew nothing about football. She got every single game right for like 6 weeks. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how are you doing this? And I have like the papers to prove that was going on. She's just like, I don't know. I'm just getting like, it's like, how? It was crazy. So it's definitely possible to get them all right, but I mean, it's not going to happen very often. And then what about you, Taylor? Are you going to partake?
Well, I'm gonna try it. I think I've gambled about 3 times in my lifetime, so I'll have some learning to do before I go ahead. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a try now that they legalize single game sports betting in Canada. Got to partake in it, and if it puts some money in the CFL's pocket, then I'm happy to.
Yeah, James, our draft expert, he's our resident gambler. Hey, he is, man. He puts him and I think Brandon put bets down all the time. But for me, it's just, yeah, I'm sure once I know a bit more, I'm gonna get into it. Especially because you can do that single game bet. Before, I think you had to bet 3 games or something, and I couldn't see it where I'd be confident enough in all 3 to make a bet, so kind of shied away from it. But if there's one game that the odds are super stupid for 1 week, it's like, okay, I'll jump on that, Mm-hmm. And then let's jump, now that we're done our pick'em, to Game Time Cues, which is a narrative from each game for the week. So We're going to go the Hamilton versus Winnipeg guy. My question is, who is your starter for week 1 for Hamilton? At quarterback.
Yeah, it's going to be Jeremiah Mazzoli, in my opinion. I know Dane got them to the Grey Cup, but in my opinion, I like Jeremiah. Like, if I had to pick between the two, I'd pick Jeremiah for my team. And I do see them, though, utilizing both quarterbacks throughout the season. Dame's not just going to be a bench warmer. He will come out and he will be throwing some balls as well.
How long is the leash?
That's a good question.
It's going to be long to start. That's what I think. Yeah, it'll be. They're going to give him a couple weeks because he's been out for a while. They'll give him a couple weeks, and if it's not by week 4, then I think you see the switch.
I agree with going with Mazzoli week 1. I disagree. I think they're going to give him a shorter leash because Dane Evans was the guy who got them pretty much when did that injury happen? Week 7?
Yeah, I was going to say week 8, so around there.
Somewhere there, yeah. So over half the season takes the team to the Grey Cup, obviously not by himself, but yeah, you can't look at that type of performance and then all of a sudden say no, we have to give this guy multiple chances before we give the ball back to you. I just don't agree with that.
That's fair. That is fair.
And then DT, what do you think of that?
Oh, I think you have to start Mazzoli week 1. I see the guys as very similar quarterbacks, except that Mazzoli adds in the run element that Dane Evans doesn't. How much he does off the knee injury is TBD, but both guys. Mazzoli throws some bad turnovers, but Dane Evans throws at least an interception every game. So I just think for the higher floor, you've got to go with Mazzoli. And I'd never thought about what kind of leash I would give him, but that cat is proven in this league. Like, he's not the best quarterback in the CFL, but he's not worse than the 5th best quarterback.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that, but I just feel like imagine you go over half the season, you win the Grey Cup, and then all of a sudden you're on the bench because somebody came back, and it's weird. Like, you feel like you win your job if you do something like that. You feel like you should be the guy.
But he fumbled the bag at the most important time.
True.
Not just him, but he did fumble the bag.
Yeah.
I mean,
his first pass was a pick, right? Like, his first pass in the Grey Cup was a pick, and I was in that game waiting. When does he throw his first interception? Oh crap! It's the first pass of the game. And
so when's he going to throw an awesome,
but
yeah.
I don't see Dane Evans being special in that I want to displace a guy who is a proven starter like Mazzoli in my mind. So to me, it would take a while to get me off of Mazzoli.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on that. I do lean towards the shorter leash, though, if he isn't performing well and maybe he isn't as mobile after the injury. If you don't see that, I think he has a short leash. But yeah, they could definitely go like a 1A, 1B system if they need to with that group. It's so good. It's really hard to tell, but I think we're all leaning towards Mazzoli being that week 1 starter.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump onto the BC versus Sask game. The question I have is, will that front 7 for Saskatchewan hold up against that improved BC offense? Because the secondary for me is not in doubt. They're excellent, but there's a lot of new faces in that front 7. So how are they going to look against BC?
Well, I think that BC's got you could say a 7, but a weaker 5. And I know some of our guys are new, but we still got AC Leonard back there. And I think that they will have a good game against Mike Riley. He'll still throw 300 yards, but yeah, they're gonna knock him to the ground at least 3 times. So I think they'll play pretty well.
Yeah, the front 7 will have a good game. I mean, BC, again, their offensive line improved. I don't think they improved to the point of keeping the Saskatchewan front 7 away from them. That's all I've got really for that. Just I've already said my piece about how I feel about the BC front line.
I think, getting Riker Matthews to be that tackle opposite Joel Figueroa, it was, I think, a fantastic move. And if everybody's healthy, Hunter Stewart, Godber, I have no idea what that cat is, but Suk Chung can block the hell out of people. I think BC, at least in that front four, that their front five is improved a fair bit, but it's going to be scheme that changes everything in my mind. There were too many times in 19 where Riley was standing there holding the ball, and I truly believe there was nobody whose route was open at that point. So I need to figure that out. And Saskatchewan's front is not as good. It won't be as good as it was, because how could it be when you were trying to replace Charleston Hughes with now a guy who's never played in the Canadian Football League? And then linebackers are, the runner-up for most outstanding Canadian, a first ballot Hall of Famer, and a guy who's in the NFL. I think there's definitely room to be taken against, if you want to call it, the front seven. The back five, no problems in it. Blaise Brown at that field corner, plus the other four that were there last year, good stuff. Good with all that. But I am curious about that front. AC is now not Charleston's sidekick. AC is the lead dog in this, and I don't know how that's going to go.
I like AC. There's a couple young defensive ends that I'm high on. The one guy that stood out in the green and white game, because probably stood out the most to me, was what's his face? D-end got into a fight with Dan Clark. Name is drawing a blank.
Oh, you're thinking of Garrett Marino, the defensive tackle.
That dude. They put him at end sometime. He was
in the three-man front, yeah.
Yeah, he looked really nice. Another guy, I like Demetrius Harris, who was a excellent defensive end in Division II football. I think he was either the leader in sacks there, he was like second. So he's another guy I like there. So
hey,
I like that spot. Yeah, hit me.
Just speaking of sacks and stuff, what just curious, since we got everyone here now, Micah Johnson had a year off where he thought he was going to play for BC, and then he comes back to the Riders. Do you guys think he has a better season than he did last time here? Because he only had 2 sacks, and that's not really like him. So do you guys think he plays better, and maybe especially week 1?
Oh, that's a good one. For me, I listen to the Yahoo's Fantasy Football podcast a lot for the NFL, and they always talk about regression to the mean. I think in this case, it's going to be progression to the mean for Micah Johnson. I don't think we're going to see a season like that from him again. He might not be like 15 to 11 sacks in there, but I could see him getting like 8, this year.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, this is personally, this is out of my element a little bit. So I'm gonna throw it over to you while I really think about what I want to say about this.
I thought you were gonna say something that's gonna make me want to fight you.
No.
Micah had some. Sorry, Carter. Micah had some injuries. He had a high ankle sprain in 19, which caused him some problems. In the end, I have him 5th among defensive tackles in quarterback pressures, and he didn't get credited with a bunch of sacks from the CFL, but I had him with 9 in total, including the playoffs. Just because you don't get there ahead of Charleston. You get there 1/50th of a second behind Charleston. The CFL gives it to Charleston. I like to give double credit in times like that. So I think he was fine. The problem I have so far is Micah. I think he's an absolute monster, but he's favoring his knee in training camp, and he's already taken a shot in his knee, and I wonder what that is about. That's my concern with Micah. I think I don't remember. I went back and looked when he did it. There had not been a defensive interior who led the league in sacks before Micah did it in the traceable stats that are available publicly in the CFL. That guy's an absolute monster when he's 100%. I pray he's 100% because they need him bad, but I don't know if that's going to be the case.
For sure.
Good points, guys.
another guy that stood out to me in the green and white game, because I went, and I don't really want to do like a half an hour segment on the green and white game because it only pertains to Rider fans, and I know 3 out of the 4 people on this podcast currently are Rider fans, but I do want this to be like a whole CFL show. So another guy that I like for the green and white game was Damon Webb at corner. I'm wondering if maybe he could start over Blaze Brown. Godfrey Onyeka played well too. So I'm just wondering, could either of those guys kind of start ahead of Blaze Brown, DT?
I doubt it based on what we've seen. I think if they would make a move like that, they'd probably go to Christian Campbell first, because Campbell's been the guy they've felt okay putting into the boundary when Marshall has missed practice. But yeah, I mean, Onyeka's making this team because I think they want to keep the option to go Canadian when Ailey Buka gets back up to camp.
Yeah, I love both those guys. So I hope we really do give a Canadian DB a shot. So it'll be nice to see what happens there. Also, if you're a Rider fan, you can tell who Damon Webb is because he stands out like a sore thumb with his red cleats and red gloves. That was one thing I noticed because he's from Ohio State, right? So he's got still got the red from back then. And then let's jump into our next game, which is Toronto versus Calgary. How will the new look Argos do against the Stamps? Do you guys think this is going to be a coming out party for Toronto, or is Calgary going to show that, hey, we haven't lost a step, we're still Calgary?
No, I think it's going to be actually a close game. Like I think it'll be lower scoring, but it'll be like a close game. I think Ottawa, they might have the advantage with the fresh legs with everybody. Or sorry, Toronto, they'll have the advantage of fresh legs with everyone. Not that Calgary doesn't, but I just think it could work out for them. And with Calgary, I mean, I always think Calgary could do well. So it's going to be, overall, I think it's going to be a really close game.
I mean, in my predictions, I said Toronto was going to win this game. And yeah, I think Toronto really turns heads with this one. I think it's close, but I think just the fact that Toronto beats Calgary, it's going to sort of surprise everyone because, Toronto's been sort of down in the dumps and people have kind of had that perception of them because it's hard to lose the perceptions that we've had of some of these teams with a year off. Like, we haven't really seen teams crazily improve except for maybe Edmonton. So, but yeah, I think Toronto's really going to wake some people up with how good they perform.
Yeah, like they were atrocious in 2019, right? Like they won 4 games and 3 were against Ottawa. That's terrible. You're the second worst team in the league when all you can do is beat up on the worst team.
Yeah.
I just look at all the talent they have added in this is crazy. Like Cam Judge and Enoch Mwamba and Charleston Hughes and Cordero Law. There's 4 pieces of a defense that every team in the league would like to have. Oh, Chris Edwards is the Sam. Okay, that works. Oh, by the way, Tavares Daniels, Eric Rogers, and Breskison. Okay, I would like that too. Firmed up their guards. We no longer have to see Tyler, what's his name, at left guard for them. I've lost his name. 57. Yeah. Tyler Holmes. I no longer have to see him there. But so they just added so much talent that them winning would not surprise me at all. And honestly, I think it'll catch a lot of people off guard when it does happen. Like Carter was saying, it's going to surprise some folks. But based on the talent that they have added, I don't know. I don't think it should. Toronto, I think we should think is a good football team.
Casual CFL fans are gonna freak out when they see the scoreline, I think.
Yeah, the hardcores are gonna be like, okay, they got better. That's to be expected. With the casuals, you're like, what? But for Toronto follow-up here, who do you guys think is the new addition, like the new to the CFL guy, the big name that actually does something with them this year?
Martavius Bryant, if he gets over the border.
That's a pretty big if at this point.
He ain't coming. If he's not here yet, he ain't coming. Come on.
No, yeah.
You can't.
But you said new guys, though, Mike?
Yeah, new guys to the CFL.
Oh, see, that's tough.
Shane Wade?
Yeah, I don't know a lot of the new to the CFL guys on their team, but I'll just say, like, I think Cam Judge is going to have the biggest impact on defense on that team out of the new guys.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's a
I'm inclined
no-brainer.
to agree.
Cameron Judge is elite, you know.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to these new players, that's you and that's James's domain. That's not me.
Oh yeah. Well, he and I like to do scouting, so it's like
Yeah.
that's one of our side hustles there. Like Mason Fine, who the Riders got, he's a dude that's been known in CFL scouting circles for a long time. Is like, this is the perfect CFL quarterback we are seeing right now in college, and I'm shocked the Riders got him because we got Cody, but I'm happy we got him. You know, so for me, I am thinking it's Kendall Wright who is in camp. I think he was 1,000-yard receiver with the Bears, but he was an excellent player in the NFL. And then I think his career it got plagued by injury or something that just stopped him from going any further. But yeah, he's a guy who was productive in the NFL. I think he would be could be a nice player in the CFL for me. And I think of the new additions, because Shane Ray and Sean Oakman are going to have to fight for time with Hughes and Law, and that's going to be difficult. Whereas Kendall Wright, I think he has less competition in that American receiver spot, so I feel like he's probably the guy that's going to make the biggest impact of the new big names.
If he gets there, yeah, that'll be the thing, right?
I think Kendall Wright is there. It's Martavius Bryant that's having issues, isn't it? Or are they both not there?
Wright's been on the suspended list since July 10th, it says here.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Oh! Both of them are gone! No!
But, I mean, you got to crack Tavares Daniels, Eric Rogers, and the Canadians. They are loaded. Like, Toronto potentially loaded at receiver if one of these guys gets there. Yeah, but at this point, now you couldn't be, even if you are quarantining, you won't be there for week 1. That's hard.
Yeah, like I know Dimwood, he said he was getting impatient with Bryant. I don't know if he said anything about Wright. Paperwork issues do happen, so I hope these guys actually are trying to get up here, but if they aren't, that sucks, and we'll probably know if they decide to cut them or keep them on the suspended list. And then speaking of Juwan Breskinson as well, who do you guys think is the best Canadian wide receiver in the league? That's a debate. I feel like that could be interesting.
Lamar Durant. I think, yeah, he's Canadian, right?
Yep, Lamar Durant's Canadian.
Yeah, that's my pick. Yep.
I'll throw out Tavon Smith in Edmonton as a guy who I think is going to have a big year.
And Carter, who do you think it is?
I blanked, so I tried to look up Canadian wide receivers, and it just gave me a list of just everybody. So, so that's
Lamar,
great.
Hergy Mayala, Dembski, Lennius, Tavon Smith, Mike Jones, no, Ottawa, come on, Peterman, Wolotarski.
I liked Dembski from last year. Again, Homer showing, don't care. But I think Dembski was really strong, even back when he was on Saskatchewan, and I think that he is one of the strongest in the league when he's able to go out there and do his thing.
I'm curious with Dembski this year, because Lapo used him in so many cool ways, right?
Yeah.
Like he had the second most slot back runs of anybody this past season. Will Buck Pierce do that same thing? Because that guy is, Jason Moss likes to use the word multiple. Nick Dembski is multiple.
Hey, why not utilize him in every other way? And it's not like you're going to be playing against Mike O'Shea, or not Mike O'Shea. Not like you're going to be playing against Lapo this year.
Yeah,
I cannot believe
who did that on the schedule. We need to find that guy and ask him.
So mad about that.
What is it? 3 games against Edmonton and none versus Ottawa? Just losing the Grey Cup champs.
Yeah,
it's like come on, like, and I know even Bomber fans are going to be mad at me for saying this, but Matt Nichols should have played in Winnipeg so they could have done a ring presentation to him with the Bomber fans there, because Matt Nichols deserves so much more credit for that championship year than he's gotten.
Would they write game manager on his ring, though?
I mean, they wrote game manager on a hat and sold it when they won the championship.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I will give props to the Bombers for
Like,
that.
and Nichols openly wore it, and he was like, "Yeah, call me it," and I've got the ring. So
Yeah.
You're the 7th best quarterback in the CFL. Congrats, Matt. Here's your ring.
Oh man.
people forget how good he was at the beginning of the year last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
15 touchdowns and 5 picks is nothing to sneeze at. Let's not kid ourselves. That was a good offense.
Sure, yeah. For me, the best Canadian wide receiver, I'm really high. I've been high on Juwan Breskinson since his draft year. So, and he was balling at the start of 2019 in Calgary. So, I think he carries that momentum over to Toronto, but I guess we'll have to see. Let's go to our last game. As DT would say, guaranteed win night for the Elks. Is this game going to tell us how bad Ottawa is or how good the Elks are?
It's going to show you how good the Elks are. It's going to be their coming out party. It's their new jerseys, new helmets, new logo, new players, new atmosphere, new environment. It's going to show you how good they are, and I think they're going to put on a good show for the league to watch.
Yeah, it's funny. Most years, offensive coordinator from the championship team and quarterback from a championship team go to a different team. Normally, that's the story. Not even close to the story in this game. This is all about Edmonton.
Well, and Elizondo against the team that he left, he's going to lay a beat down on them. Oh, it's going to be. I'm with you guys. It's the Edmonton show.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I think the Elks are just going to mercilessly beat down the Red Blacks, especially with what DT was talking about, how he departed. I feel like he's going to show no mercy. Like, there's no putting Edmonton backups in it. He's going to go full tilt starters the whole game, and it's just going to be brutal. So, I think that's all we have to say on those games. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else we should probably ask about that game?
No.
No, we can just skip. It's guaranteed win night. Let's move on.
Show.
Yep. So let's go to COVID activities. Some people may be wondering, what's that? For us, when kind of all the lockdowns started and there wasn't a ton of CFL stuff to talk about, this is our segment where we tell you guys what we're doing outside of this podcast and outside of the CFL, so you can get a bit of a better idea of who we are and what we're into. So, for example, Carter and I will recommend a lot of video game and internet stuff. Taylor, it's always working and then something else. Kind of another inside joke. But
yeah.
So, I'll start with my COVID activities. I'm going to recommend these two shows. Invincible, which is a superhero show that's also on Amazon Prime, sort of like The Boys. Very similar shows. Invincible, it more or less revolves around a kid superhero, whereas The Boys, they're trying to take down big superheroes. But I never do good enough descriptions for these, but if you liked my Boys recommendation, which I know some people did, check out Invincible. It's awesome. And then The Strain is, if you like The Walking Dead, that kind of show, this is a similar show that doesn't wear out its welcome, kind of like The Walking Dead did, but that's a topic for another day. 4 seasons. It's about a pandemic that turns people into vampires, and this epidemiologist with the CDC and kind of a group of people are working to stop it. It's a excellent show, very bingeable on Disney Plus. Highly recommend.
Nice. Well, mine's been kind of sad lately. I've been forced to go back to the office, so I'm not as home as much, so that's just not as fun. But I've recently finished The Sopranos and Loki finished, so I'm just kind of stuck in this this place where I don't know what to watch. So I've just been watching a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because Danny DeVito's great, and Charlie Day and Rob McElhenney, they're all great. And yeah, it's a hilarious show if you haven't watched it. So watch it for some laughs.
For me, I am going Lucifer. It is such a good show. It's on Netflix. It is about the devil who obviously cast down to hell, and he decides, you know what, I'm sick of it, goes to Earth, finds a detective, and they go and solve crimes. It sounds like a dumb cartoon. It's a really good show. And then as well as that, I've got Dimension 20. And what that is it is also a show, but this one's online with it's with a subscription service called Dropout, which is done by a group called College Humor. And it's kind of like Critical Role, as in it's Dungeons and Dragons, and it's got a ton of production value behind it. And you watch the group sort of play through the story, and it all develops, and it's really interesting, at least to me.
I like it. For me, the number one show of COVID, I was thankful to get it the first week. They sent the first 3 episodes. Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus is just unbelievable. It's nice without Ted's nice without being a total pushover. They do character development that other series would just throw it away. Like, oh, here's the girl who's sort of famous for being on social media, would be a throwaway character, but she's an integral part of keeping this team together. There's the whole fish out of water element, and actors I have no idea who most of them were, but now I'm gonna love them forever. 20 Emmy nominations, deservedly so. Ted Lasso, the COVID activity I am most fond of.
It's awesome.
Good show.
Yeah, I might have to watch that. I'll find a way to. I don't have Apple TV, but I'll figure it out.
Send you a link.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, that's how I had to finish Criminal Minds, because I know that was an earlier recommendation of mine. They only had 12 seasons on Disney, so like, all right, gotta find a
Only
link.
12.
Yeah, hey, only 12, but hey, I love true crime, so I burned through that so fast. What was another one? I have Crave for a little bit. So does anybody have any recommended shows on Crave I should watch?
The Sopranos.
Yeah, Sopranos, Entourage, anything from HBO.
Yeah.
Watch Hacks. Watch Hacks on Crave. It's a woman comedian. Her name eludes me right now, but she gets a young gal to write for her, and there's the old versus young, the cool versus less cool. It's really good comedy. I enjoy Hacks quite a bit off Crave.
All right, I'll have to take a look at that. And then, yeah, I think that wraps up the show. It was awesome having you on. Thanks for being here, Derek Taylor. We'll have to do this again sometime.
That sounds good. I always enjoy talking football. For so long, we didn't get to talk football, and I didn't get to think about Tim Flanders' flowing red dreadlocks, but I got to think about those again. Remember those? Amazing.
Hey,
Oh,
it's gonna look clean with the red black unis.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, man. And then...
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
Thankful for you coming.
Labor Day special, maybe.
Oh, hell yeah. I'd be down for that. But, yeah, that's the show. You can find us on social media. Our socials are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search True North Canadian Football Podcast. You'll find us. You can find the show on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and now Apple Podcasts. So stay tuned for all your fantasy news, your updates on news, and coverage of games. As usual, I am your host, Jimmy Leach. This is the True North Canadian Football Podcast signing off.